number 5 team in the Pac-12 rankings. Colorado also on the up and up. GB Coach Prime, he brought his Louis luggage with him. He told us he was going to bring some changes, and he has. What have you made of his first few months in Boulder?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about, Cormani McClain, but we got to talk about Travis Hunter for a little bit as well, right? But, back-to-back #1 corners, although Travis Hunter might be even a better wide receiver prospect. Huff and I saw him, I think it might have been during that COVID year, right? Bullhead City, Arizona. And I had never seen a skilled guy dominate like he did. And I love the way he plays, love the way he competes. I've seen him in so many settings, whether it be an All-American game, a 7-on-7 with pads on. And the guy plays and competes so hard. Cormani McClain, he's a long corner, 6'1", maybe even pushing 6'2", with the long arms and the length. And he had so much production early on. I think he's one of those guys who wants to be coached by Deion Sanders. I think you can make a case, Deion, right, Huff, the #2 corner of all time, behind that guy from your Browns. But no, I love Cormani. And I love what they're doing over at Colorado. I mean, they're going after high-level players. They don't care where they're from. And we talked about Dan Lanning. He doesn't care if it's a Southern California high school program that has ties to a school like USC. I think Deion's the same way, man. I think he's going to go into California, Florida, Texas, Michigan, Ohio. It doesn't matter. And he's going to compete. And I think this first class, you're already seeing it. Some high-level players. And, again, growing up for me, those were my favorite helmets. A big Bill McCartney fan. Loved Eric Bieniemy, Darren Hagen. So I'm rooting for the Buffs. I like what they're doing right now.
They are going national. They're taking big swings at some of these prospects. But Huff, how much success does Deion need on the field for this basically recruiting success to continue?
Well, first of all, let's go back to what Greg said earlier about, the black and gold, the corner, Rod Woodson. I've always been Team Rod Woodson, and I'm not afraid to admit it. But Deion does have that flair. He has that swag. He had some success as a NFL player, as a college player, and now we're seeing that immediate success as a college coach, whether it's his first 2 years at Jackson State, whether it's what he's done at Colorado. I think, again, Colorado can continue to see that. Now, remember, Deion's situation was a little bit more unique. He was still coaching Jackson State down the stretch in December and didn't get to maybe spend as much time in the month of December recruiting to Colorado because he was still focusing on Jackson State and their berth in the Celebration Bowl. Then you saw what he did on signing day, able to get Travis Hunter to announce for them that night. But more importantly, it's what he was able to have somebody not do, and that was with Cormani not signing with Miami. That gave Deion time to flip him and get him into this class. So if Deion can do that in 4 to 6 weeks, what's Deion going to be able to do with a big year? Blair Gregg was covering a number of players this weekend from Southern California that had gone out to Boulder for a junior day right before the dead period. Blair, you cover the state of Colorado. You've seen the impact that they're having in state. But you mentioned it. It's going to be a national recruiting scope for Colorado. Deion has ties to Florida, given that he played at Florida State. He's got ties to Georgia, given that he played for the Falcons. He's got ties to Dallas and to Texas, given his time with the Cowboys and his time coaching high school. Yeah, he played for the Niners. Yeah, he played for the Ravens, played for Cincinnati Reds, that was. So he's got some ties, but he's Deion Sanders. This isn't a guy who, when he retired, he went off the grid. He has been on commercials. He's been on television. He's been on the sidelines at Under Armour games. He's kind of like the football version of Charles Barkley and Shaquille O'Neal, where he's never left the spotlight, but he's got coaching chops to back it up. We saw the success he had at Jackson State. Now that he's at Colorado, we're not looking at this as being the Colorado of the previous 20 years. Like Greg said, this was the Colorado of the 80s and 90s approach when they were competing for national championships, winning national championships, and now they have maybe the coach with the most flair and swag that has been. Listen, all these schools, they like to tweet about their social media with their coach, how much swag their coach has, and all these coaches get these things. Deion originally defined it, and now he's redefining it as a head coach, and that's going to carry over to recruiting success for the Buffs.
Yeah, he's a 1A basis. If you say Deion, you know who you're talking about, and obviously that's a huge deal in this name, image, and likeness era where it's all about marketing, branding, and he can basically pave the way for a lot of these recruits. I think that's a part of his success as well. So it's Oregon, USC, Utah, Washington, and Colorado rounding out the top 5 in the Pac-12 team recruiting rankings. And let's get down to the bottom.